Hey, look at that.
Okay.
Far out, man.
Hey, what's it like being back, guys?
Great.
It's wonderful.
It's awesome.
Changed a lot.
Things have changed.
It's good seeing all these guys. I haven't seen some of them for 40 years
Yeah.
at least.
Some of us stay very well hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see Bud. Gosh, it's been probably
The farm looks great.
40 at least, 40 or
Really?
maybe, yeah.
He was a singer in your band.
I know, we had a good band
Yeah,
too.
you did.
Yeah. Yeah, Bud's good.
Oh, yeah.
He could belt it out.
I didn't need to know the words.
Didn't matter.
Not then.
Sing it loud enough, nobody cares.
Nobody could understand it.
What kind of things went on in this barn that you remember?
We had ballet lessons. I'm just kidding.
Well, I was relating earlier to the boys about when we'd bring the hay in from the field. You mow it, you rake it, you bale it, then you stack it in the field to dry. Then we'd load it on a trailer and bring it in here. And Rudy'd be out there, and there was a big line that would go under the barn down the length here and up and over. And those big tongs back there,
There's forks in the back.
those big forks, would go into the bales of hay.
8 bales.
8 bales. And Rudy, that was his job. Rudy, he liked to be the boss, He'd put him in there, and then he'd raise his hand to Bill, and Bill would take off with a tractor, and that line would pull the bales up. They'd click up there, and we had a little
It's a trip.
trolley, a little
The
trolley
trolley,
with a
yeah.
line on it, yeah. And they come up there and get on that rail, you can see it up there. And it goes shooting the whole length of the building, and then had a little 1/4-inch rope on it, you trip it, and the tongs would come out, and you drop the bales of hay.
Yeah, learned how to drive there.
And I was talking to John here, this thing didn't have a loft. We'd take it all the way to the top, the hay, but this they take it right down to this floor. There was no hay just up above. It was all the way down here.
You'd have to start in the back and drop the bales all the way in the back and start, then once you got a load in, you'd have to start stacking the hay.
Yeah.
And then once you got it stacked, you'd go get another load and
Well,
do it
as
again.
soon as you tripped it, the whole process started again out here, and we had to put the 8 bales away, which was easy. Real easy when you were right to the end of it and was just coming in here. But yeah. And a lot of this, when you mowed a field, you went around the outside the opposite direction because it had lots of weeds in it and stuff. And that would be straw, and that's what they used for the nests. So they'd have that off to the side here, kind
Well,
of.
one year they planted over in the field over here, they planted oats and they used that for straw too.
Yeah.
I remember we had to pick rocks in that. We didn't have a lot to do that year, so we were picking rocks in that. And Rudy came up there one day and he didn't think we had enough rocks picked out of that thing, and he was a little bit upset.
Those rocks grow like potatoes.
Some of them looked like
Isn't that the
potatoes.
truth?
I remember the haying season usually began first, second week of July.
Yeah.
It was 2 or 3 weeks long. And, I worked there probably 10 years after you did, maybe 12 years, I don't know. And by the time I got there, the baler was kind of old. We do a couple revolutions that break down, Rudy.
Oh, yeah.
Rudy kind of mumble a little bit. We'd fix the baling wire and do a couple more revolutions, and we always got her done.
Yeah,
Yeah, Rudy, I have to say, Billett's field was probably the biggest field that we mowed.
You mean the airport?
The airport,
We
yeah.
did
Yeah.
the airport,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Andy had a field down by Oral Bay that we did. We did everything around here, but he taught me, just like you said, to go counterclockwise
Yeah.
twice,
Yeah,
so
then
that there was enough room to turn the tractor around
go the other way.
and go the other way. But he also said, line up the stack with something on the farthest end of the field, so that you can make a straight line. Don't look down in front of the mower or the bar.
Yeah.
Line it up. And the years that I did the mowing were straight lines because of him. The other thing too was sometimes he'd want to start stacking the bales before he had made enough laps, and you'd have to drag the bales too far because there wasn't enough bales to really start. But when he decided it was time to start, I'd have to start stacking even if I had to drag them further than
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't concerned about your comfort.
As a matter of fact, on a note of comfort, I was telling Rick this morning, one time he brought me lunch mowing the airfield, and it was 2 white pieces of bread with a piece of cheese and a Mason's jar of creek water.
What a guy.
But he brought it.
Oh, he'd bring our lunch to us out in the field
Yeah, so I didn't
with a
expect
quart of
that.
milk.
He
Quart of
didn't
milk
have any
every
milk.
lunch.
It was
Quarter
it
milk
was
every
a-
lunch, yeah, that was part of the pay.
Whole
Yeah.
milk.
You got
Yeah.
a quart every.
I drank it at night after when we were
Well,
done.
you lived here.
Yeah, that's what living here.
We'd carry when we walked, we'd carry home 4 quarts every night after
Oh,
a
yeah.
day at the
It was
farm.
whole milk with that much cream on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd come in the
I
back.
miss that milk.
We'd walk up here and come in the back way down here.
Yeah.
Come up past Gordo's, up the back side of Amsterdam, up the hill
Yeah.
there.
And go through the field, or go through the woods?
Yeah,
go through
right here by the
woods,
schoolhouse.
the corner there, and come down by the pond down here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And walk up.
yeah, I did that the first 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, you were, it was past your house. That's where you guys
Yeah,
met.
yeah, we
that's
would come
right.
up the
Yeah.
Grandma's Road and
Yeah.
head right for the gravel
Yeah.
pit. And there was a trail at the
Gravel
back
pit,
of the
yeah.
gravel pit that would come through and,
Well, sort of, yeah. My
Yeah.
mom took me there to get blackberries all the time. That's all I remember.
Do you remember those two? I think you guys showed me we were haying the airport, and there was 2 airplanes up there in an old
Yeah.
hangar.
Yeah.
I think you guys showed those to me.
Yeah.
Wasn't that something? 2
Yeah.
old. Those are cool.
Was that early 60s?
Oh, yeah.
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 We
Yeah.
were
64 was when I came on. Yeah.
Well, we did the airport, and we did that, the place out by Rick's out in Ora Bay.
Yeah, it was Andy Anderson had a field out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we did the place by the culvert there,
Yeah.
going to Ora Bay.
We did Lizzie's.
Lizzie's. We did Ivel's.
Yeah.
yeah.
We did Gene and Lyle's place.
I don't remember doing that.
Yeah.
You
Then-
did all that stuff. When you got past,
There's a field that you don't know about, but down you're heading, Amsterdam's down here, and you're heading up, and you take a left to go to Andy Anderson's park. You know where the horse ranch is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back behind there was a big empty field.
Is that right?
And you'd come up, and there, I couldn't even find the road anymore, but you take a left and go back there, just a big square field. I
was
don't know.
that Clausen's place?
I have no idea.
Clausen's over there somewhere.
Somebody used to mow, Lowell Johnson, my stepdad, that
Yeah.
big field in Ore
Across the
Bay.
street. Yeah.
I think Rudy might have done that.
Yeah,
I know Carl Carlson did it a few years later. That's always been mowed up to this day.
you had to work a couple years before you got to do that stuff, drive the
Yeah.
mower and stuff.
I never got to do
He
that.
let me
didn't
drive his
either.
car.
Well-
He'd send me to Lyle's in his. That was when you knew you arrived. He'd let me drive the Chevy to go pick up something at Lyle's.
Oh, you got to drive the Chevy?
Yeah.
I never saw
No
them
way.
drive the Chevy.
Yeah.
yeah.
That thing was
I did too.
awesome. Yeah.
The 283.
The truck
that
in
burned
there.
the
283,
right
yeah.
rear tire off.
157?
Yeah,
1957.
Bronze on cream.
Yeah,
It was
but
called Sierra Gold.
Yeah. Well, Sierra Gold.
Sierra Gold.
Alita's car would burn the tires off. That little 225.
Sierra Gold. That's awesome.
Sure.
Sierra Gold. He knows he knows the names of stuff.
Well, I was 14 when I started my first year, 69, and I didn't know driving for nothing. And Bob took me up on the road, one of the main roads, and we got in his Chevy car, and he said, put it in gear. He taught me how to drive. He said, you're going to have to know how to drive when you get to Oscar and Rudy's. And sure enough, they let me drive the truck, the car, the tractor.
No, I never drove. I did all the other stuff.
Yeah.
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 I think I was
Yeah.
14 and we were right out here in this field and you said, go ahead and jump on the tractor and put it in first gear. I think I put it in third and I started bouncing down the field, trying to out of control and finally got it under control. But that was
That tractor
my
was a mover.
first experience, the only experience dragging that tractor.
Yeah.
I think I was only 14 too.
Yeah, oh, the tractor.
Yeah,
That
the old
was
Pop.
I
Bob,
first-
Bob Eric called it Pop and John.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it's one cylinder,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was a great tractor.
yeah.
And it had the power brakes.
Yeah,
When we're going
brake on
down,
each wheel.
we'd look for a cow pie and step on the power brake and turn sideways, slide right through it.
We would do wheelies every
Yeah.
once in a while. Well, not a lot, but when you were
Well, that was
away from everybody.
that was designed so you could take the tractor and turn and go right back up the road.
You steer
Just
it
came
with
back
brakes.
on.
You
But
steer it with brakes.
I was 13 when I got to drive the baler, and Rudy put me down at the airport. And I was there the whole day. And you have the up and down of the tractor, then you got that baler with that arm and the separate engine. And I got sick as a dog. I didn't realize it, but I just was woozy when I got off that tractor.
The fumes, the fumes.
No, just
No,
the motion
the
sickness
motion,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Beat you to death,
in the sun. Just
yeah.
that was that baler, that was brutal because it went so slow.
Yeah, you had to go slow.
Yeah, raking and mowing was fast, but the baler was slow.
Yeah.
I remember you had a lot of important jobs that we didn't get to do because you had the seniority. I didn't get to work with Bill, but I was working with you, and you were head of the crew, and we had to get all the hay, we had to get everything done because you had to go back for football practice.
Yeah,
So you left a couple, like 3 weeks for us, and so it was just me and Bob, and so we had to get all that stuff, done. All this technical stuff had to be done. Yeah,
Wow, I didn't know
It was
that
a great
you
time.
had a whole crew's work.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
the only guy when I was working.
yeah.
yeah,
so you did all the egg.
Everything.
Yeah,
yeah.
I lived with them, and at first, because I didn't live on the island,
I see.
and so during the haying, it was like Dave. I started in '70. I left in '74, but in the summer I'd stay Monday through Friday, go home on the weekend. In the winter, I'd stay on the weekend, clean the barn, split a million cords of wood. And then the last 2 years, though, because of our family situation, I just moved out here. Alita was still alive when I moved out here.
Who was shoveling out the coops? You were doing?
Me.
Oh, you were doing
I
everything.
shoveled the barn once a week. I did the coops. We hypnotized the chickens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, those dumb. Yeah.
We tried to hypnotize a cow one time, and we thought this works on the chickens, so we just held their heads down. And but I hope that is the ASPCA going to be seeing this?
Probably, yeah.
PETA or something.
Yeah.
We would hold their heads down and then draw a line off
Sure.
of their beak in the manure, and they'd be going, and we'd let go.
Yeah.
And then we'd walk away, and an hour later they'd be just like that, stuck. So, do
You
you
come up and
remember?
kick 'em.
Remember that? Of course.
We had the milk cow out here one time. Wasn't that you? And we tried to hypnotize a milk cow.
Did it
She
work?
threw us all over the place. She wasn't having none of
She
it.
wasn't having any of it, yeah.
Oh, you can't hypnotize a milk cow.
Yeah.
But they were gentle enough. I mean, the most that I ever milked was he'd have 3.
Yeah.
But mostly it was 2, and every once in a while there'd be 3. But still, it was twice a day. Morning,
Yeah.
night, even
Man, you
after
were busy.
school.
Gee.
When I started here, they were milking 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they
They
had
did it all by
39
hand.
cows when we were here. About 2,200 chickens.
2,200 chickens.
Oh, yeah.
That was mostly an egg farm by the
20.
time we got
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they got out
Yeah,
of
we
the
had
milk
3. We
business.
had 3 guys working fast.
That's amazing.
Well, there
Yeah.
was a time where the county came out and said they couldn't sell eggs and milk anymore,
Oh,
and they had. Well, when Rudy got sick, they had a whole truckload of eggs, and we buried them out here in the field. We dug a big hole and buried them. So when they rotted, and the coyote came out and dug them up, and so
Oh, boy.
we covered them back up and hoped that they would stay there. But
Well, you had that new egg machine they had that had the little.
the weigher.
Yeah.
we got that my second year.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
on that too, weren't you?
The-
Oh, but at first you had to just.
Right.
Sand them.
Well, we did
Sand
that
them.
afterwards.
Yeah.
We had the washer and the weigher, and then
Then check them.
they'd candle them in the back room, then they'd bring them back out, and you'd sit and you'd sand them with a brush, with the sandpaper.
Well, some of them are large checks you don't sand
Yeah.
because they'd smash.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'd hate that when I was real young. Right after lunch, sometimes you'd go down there, and I got stuck with Rudy,
Oh, yeah.
and he's sleepy and I'm sleepy, and it's hot, and you just ate, and you're sitting there, and Rudy's going to sleep, and
He had a beat, you know. He had a rhythm.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I know. And pretty soon I'm sitting there.
Yeah.
And the worst thing you do is drop an egg into the basket.
Yeah.
Because then you
It's a
got
mess,
egg
yeah.
yolk over everything.
Well, there was a time where he was dating
Lois Scholes.
Lois.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was so tired because he'd be up half the night visiting, and we'd sit down there and we'd start sanding, and he would fall asleep and he'd drop an egg.
Now, who was he dating?
Lois
Lois
Scholes.
Lois Scholes.
Was
She
that
used to own
Reynolds'
Scholes
mom?
Spurs.
No, that was later on.
She used to own
She
Scholes
lived,
Spurs in Tacoma.
she lived to be about 100 years old.
Well, he married that Reynolds' mom.
Rudy did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He was married.
Elma or something?
No,
like that.
what-
I can't remember.
You
the
know,
name.
Bob Reynolds
Sure.
Yeah.
was his mother. She lived over there in Orbay.
Yeah. It's
And somehow
kind of
Rudy
our
and-
neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
they,
She left him.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
yeah.
left him.
Yeah. So, and that was a heartbreak.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
well,
sure.
Was that back in the 60s, 50s?
Yeah,
No,
that was
that was later on. It was after we left here.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I left in '66.
I don't know when Rudy passed.
75.
75.
Okay.
Yeah. But speaking of hot, the kitchen in the summertime with the wood stove going.
Oh,
cook
yeah.
Stove, it was.
Oh, and
Well,
we,
that's how Oscar heated the hot water.
Oh, I know. That's
Yeah.
why we had to start the stove first thing every morning.
Yeah.
Was because the copper pipes were running through the back of the stove, but you
Right.
didn't have
Oh,
any
yeah.
hot water unless
Yeah.
the stove was on.
yeah.
So the very first thing I'd have to do is I'd come down the stairs and start the fire in the stove before anything else, then fill the wood box back up, then come down and milk the cows.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there was no hot water.
Yeah.
What time were you doing this? What time in the morning?
About 5. I had to catch a ferry to go to school, so I'd have to have the cows milked and then take a shower and then catch the ferry. What time was the ferry that we used to catch for school?
6.
Yeah, so I was up at 5.
You a regular farm boy.
Boy,
I was up at
yeah.
5. Yeah, it was
Jeez.
pretty brutal. And then after school, if I was either tennis or wrestling or something, I had to get back here in time to milk the cows again.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock.
And then Sundays too.
Oh, yeah, every day.
So it was. That's why I became a workaholic. It's all Rudy's fault. There's
Well,
no
we-
days off.
We worked 8 to 5, so we weren't involved with it.
He would not tell
We
me
didn't
what
milk
time we were
anything.
getting off. That was the worst chewing out I ever got. Was these two characters drove up in their car one day. I don't think you remember this, but you asked me what time I was getting off so we could meet at the lake, and I asked Rudy, "Hey, what time are we going to be done today?" And he got upset that I was asking about quitting before we ever started.
Uh huh.
And I got a pretty good chewing out. I think I got some pretty good chewing outs.
You probably deserved it.
I did, but we had our arguments.
Well, because Oscar would chew out Rudy.
Oh, big time.
Oh,
Lots of
Oscar,
Yeah.
bottling the food chain.
Oscar
Yeah,
was
and
in
then
charge.
so we're just,
Oh, no
yeah.
doubt about
Yeah.
it.
He was boss man.
Yeah.
I was telling Rit one time when the tractor flooded and it was his fault and it didn't start and of course he asked me to get the plug wrench and a kitchen match right up in front of the house. I took the spark plug out and he said, "Hold the match right over the hole." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." And the wind was blowing the flame a little bit away. I held it up till finally, it evacuated
Sure.
the cylinder.
Sure.
And it burnt my thumb all the way to the wrist, pure white. I bent my thumb, it cracked and bled, and it cracked and bled. And I was furious. And all he said was, I'm not going to say what exactly he said, but he was, "Put some salve on it and let's go to work."
Oh my
And so I
gosh.
put salve on my thumb and I wrapped it up and put in a full day's work. And
Oh, yeah.
where I probably should have got something besides salve.
Yeah.
But anyway, and that's the way it was. I mean,
Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
when he used to buy the gas barrels from Bob Barrett, one time in the summertime, it was sitting in the sun. That thing was so expanded that the top was round almost. And he told me to open it and put the pump, for filling up the hand crank pump to fill up the tractor. I opened it and got a gasoline shower.
Mm-hmm.
And he just told me to wash my eyes out. Let's go to work.
Yeah.
I said, so we talked about each other's families. And then we went to work. And everything ended with, let's go to work.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Well,
to
that's,
this day, my wife credits Rudy Johnson for my work ethic. Because I've always had a job, I've always worked hard, and it all started right here.
Rudy's expression when he got mad at you was "Gosh, wish fish hooks, man," and he chewed snooze, and he'd say it so fast he couldn't keep the snooze in his lip, and he'd drool down his chin. "Gosh, wish fish hooks, man! What are you doing? Why do you do that? What's wrong with you?" And he'd drool down his chin and have to wipe it away, and your face would get red.
You know,
The last time I worked for Rudy, I had my lunch out on the porch with my milk, and he would say, well, if I don't come out in time, you get in there, you go split wood. He took a lot of naps, those last days of his life.
Yeah,
Sure he did.
I did my half hour, and I go out and I split a lot of wood that year. It's just,
We always did an hour for lunch, and
Yeah.
you'd
Hour for
kinda,
lunch.
Yeah.
we'd sit in the table in
the round table.
the
Yeah.
round table
Yep.
in the dining room
beautiful
there, or
table.
whatever you want to call it.
that big old
And they'd eat in the kitchen, and then they'd come in
Yeah.
and sit in the rocking chair, and we'd all be quiet, hoping that they'd both fall asleep. So lunch hour would take and be instead of an hour, maybe an hour and 10 or something like that.
yeah, it got to where Rudy would actually invite me in to eat lunch with him.
Wow, that was nice.
Yeah. No, it was very, very segregated when I was
Oh, yeah.
here right off the top.
And Rudy'd wake himself up snoring.
Yeah.
And then Oscar'd get mad at Rudy. They're both sleeping, but he blamed it on Rudy.
Yeah.
And then when Al was there, Al and Alva, they'd eat a great big meal too. And he'd come out there, Al, but he would talk so much. You
Yeah.
remember Al?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Rudy coming out on that front porch and just yelling at us to work faster, work harder for no reason. I mean, we weren't doing anything different. He'd just come out on the porch. Remember that?
Yeah.
Just yell at us.
He
Get
never
going, you guys.
he never raised his voice with us.
Yeah, that was Oscar that did that. I remember him.
Yeah.
I thought, well,
One
Well,
thing
we're supposed to
I
do
have to say, in living with him, when Alita died, we had two choices during the week: roast or steak and boiled potatoes and vegetables. And that's the only thing that he ever cooked after Alita died, because I don't think he knew how to cook that good.
Oh,
And-
probably not. Oscar did it all.
Yeah, so when it was just Rudy, Alita on Fridays used to make a cream pea thing that was really good, and she'd make hot chocolate and other nice things. But at the end there, we ate a lot of beef,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was always well done. Boiled potatoes and well done roast or well done steaks. One year at Christmas, he gave my family, my dad was a sergeant, the biggest round steaks I've ever seen in my life. He gave us 8 huge, like 2 inches thick, that big, all stacked up. That's the most steak that was ever in my mom's freezer, and the whole time that I grew up. That was his little gift to us one time. That was a nice memory.
Yeah, yeah.
So you guys would collect 4 times a day? Eggs?
Nope, that was winding down when I was here. We did the milk cows. He did have, sometimes we'd have to put up a chicken wire fence and corral some beef so that he could take it out for slaughter. In fact, one time, it almost got me killed. We wrapped a rope around the axle of that trailer that we cleaned the barn and put the manure in the trailer or the hay bales or whatever. And there was a big bull. He was black and white, and he called him Bully Bull. And he threw some flakes of of a bale over the fence, and when the bull's head was right next to the chicken wire, he told me to put the noose, the loop around his horns. And it went over the chicken wire, wrapped around the axle of the trailer, and he was on the tractor, and there was a loose end on the rope. That was my job. And then he opened the chicken wire and started to pull that bull toward the barn. And the bull was getting pretty upset. I'd have to pick up the slack, the one wrap around the thing, I'd pick up the slack. That bull tore the trailer apart.
Oh, yeah.
He ran up to it and hit it with his head, and those big planks went flying, and I was scared, but Rudy told me I had to stay on the ground, had to keep reeling in the slack. Of course, the bull could come right out and get me. But we got that bull right down here to the barn, to the edge, and he put some more hay down, it settled down, and he pitchforked it into the barn. It actually came in the barn, which I thought would be impossible because it wasn't a milk cow. But then he gave me the horns of that bull. They slaughtered it. The guys came out with the truck and they slaughtered it and gave me the horns, but almost got me killed on
I
that.
remember Jack Ball remember Jack Ball?
Oh, yeah.
He'd artificially inseminate the cattle. He'd
Oh,
put
I
a-
remember that.
put-
Oh, yeah.
He'd put a great big glove on his
Yeah, up to
arm
here. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and shove a needle right down along his arm.
Yeah.
Jeez.
They didn't do that.
Do you remember?
Do you remember putting the ring on the
That's
on,
what I was
on the
gonna
little on the little
on the balls on,
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
calf?
did
Yeah.
that with him.
put the
They
ring
were
so their
wild.
balls
Oh,
would
yeah.
fall off? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, the
I used to
goofy
do
stuff.
that at Carlson's ranch. Carl Carlson.
Oh, yeah.
He would get the nose clamps out, and you'd hold the bull at the nose, you know. Then he'd get out there with that rubber band and that tool, and those bulls, that thing, you couldn't hold them, keep them still or nothing.
Yeah, well,
I remember Wednesdays. Wednesdays was when Rudy took the big truck and went into town.
To town.
Remember,
With the eggs.
with the eggs
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
get all the groceries, stuff we needed, and to get feed. And we'd goof off that day, kind of.
Yeah, he was going to Grondels, wasn't he, with those eggs? In
Stilcombe, yeah.
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 Then he'd bring out feed, and we'd have to put the feed away.
That was the egg producer, those sacks, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was always when you grab a bag of mesh, you'd pull it out and fill the troughs and
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
But then you go in there and you see a mouse nest.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Did you ever do that with me?
no.
Yeah.
It would just be a bunch of hair and little tiny mice about that long, probably 24 of them,
Yeah.
and sitting there. And I would scoop it in a bucket. And then we had like a piece of plywood about, 16 inches by 16 inches. I put on top of the bucket. And I'd go out in the middle of the hen house. You know?
What, let 'em loose?
Yeah, no. Then I'd take the bucket with that board and tip it up like this, so it's upside down, and the bucket sitting on the board. Then I put some baling line
Oh.
on the bucket, and I'd stand back about 15, 20 feet. Now, pull the bucket up, and there'd be all these little baby mice sitting in the middle, and the room would just go quiet.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
oh, geez,
No, we
Yeah.
gathered eggs 4 times a day.
4 times a day, yeah.
Yeah.
Before and right after lunch, right?
Uh-huh.
I only did it twice.
I thought it was twice, yeah.
We do
Twice-
it, no, we do it
twice
when
a
we
day.
get in the morning.
Yeah,
In
you're
the
right,
morning.
you're right.
Then we do it
Yeah.
at 11. Then
Yeah.
we do it at 1.
That's
And then we do
right.
it before we went home at 4.
You're right. It was the first thing of the day, though, wasn't it? I remember
Yeah.
Yeah.
we got there and we
You had
did.
2 buckets?
Oh,
2
yeah.
buckets apiece, right?
Yeah.
Oh, easy.
Yeah,
Somehow
And we-
I learned how to carry
And we
3.
feed them in the morning and the afternoon.
that's right, yeah.
Oyster shell, mash, and then throw the kernels out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know one of the things that was hard for me when I first started here, I was probably about 14, and you'd pick up an 80-pound sack of that,
Yeah.
of the mash.
And the mash was the egg producer, right?
Yeah,
It went in the troughs?
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what, that was that real powdery stuff they just
Yeah.
said. eat.
Yeah.
The
But
kernels we threw on the floor.
Yeah. Well, I never got to do that. That was Rudy's job.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
he'd
got
have
to
to come
do
up
that.
there and do that, and he'd put in the oyster shell for the
Oyster shell
the
for-
gizzard and
yeah.
that. But when you're, I wasn't the biggest guy in the world, and picking that bag up and not spilling it in the bucket and all that was a real chore
Yeah,
until you
yeah.
got part of it out of the bag so you could hang on to
Yeah.
it a little better. But you had to reach your arm around it and
Oh, I remember, yeah.
lift it up
Take,
off the floor.
and you wanted to open it up good because you could pour it easier. If you ripped it, then it'd get crap all over the place.
Yeah,
But remember, the worst thing you could see when you came out there in the morning was the Peterson Pie Man there.
Mm-hmm.
From the chicken pies, Peterson
Oh,
Pies.
yeah.
So that means he's coming to buy a house of chickens.
Yeah, and we're
And that
gonna-
means we're going to clean it.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. It's probably that same
And that guy,
afternoon.
that old guy, he had all these wooden boxes.
Yeah,
And I'd go up there and with Rudy and him, and we had those long wires that we catch the chickens with their feet and pass them to this guy. And he would feel them for water.
oh. We went through the windows with those. Did
Yeah.
we went through the windows?
Yeah, Rudy's, and he'd feel them for water. And if they had water, he'd grab their head, break their necks, and just flip them over his shoulder.
Yeah, we had to do that with the yellow ones too.
Yeah.
He'd say, Rudy or somebody said, get those yellow ones and wring their necks
Yep.
because they're not good enough.
And then we'd go and throw those in a mesh bag and go burn them.
yeah.
And then he'd take the rest of the chickens
yeah,
and take them. I think he was from Everett or something.
they
think
were
it
too
was-
old to lay
I
eggs,
think it
right?
was Swanson
Probably,
Pies or
yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
they
glad
were
that
out after.
operation was over.
Yeah, the worst part of that was cleaning the dropping boards.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Clean the whole thing, the
Oh
floor.
my gosh, and the crap would get over the chicken wire, and you'd have to shake it off or knock it off the wire when you raised them up,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd getting up on them dropping boards and shoveling that out.
yeah, they were stuck to those.
Oh my god.
Then
Yeah.
scraping
Yeah.
the wood floor too.
Yeah.
So we got it pretty clean though. Did
Oh,
we put
yeah.
that straw
Oh, yeah.
down on it?
Well, that was always for a rainy day.
Yeah.
When it rained, we'd have to go up there.
Oh yeah.
Then when you got it loaded, you had to take it out in the
Sure, out
field
in
and
the field.
unload it.
Yeah,
And that's when you got to step on the power brake and
Yeah,
slide
and
sideways
slide
through the cow
tractor
pies.
sideways.
Yeah.
yeah. I know one year they had the slab pile over by Windy Pete's, and Ted and I got on the tractor and the two-wheel trailer and went over there and filled it up with slab. And Oscar would go up here and fire up that old one long motor they had
Oh,
that
yeah.
had the radiator on the top. It was just a deal where they poured water in it to keep the motor cool.
Yeah.
And a belt that ran from here to
Yeah, that big strap.
Rick, yeah, about like that. And they had a saw blade that was, oh, hell, it must have been 3 feet in diameter. And they saw all this stuff into lengths for the wood stove.
And he put that stone up there too
Yeah,
for sharpening.
yeah, he tripped.
That, it's sitting up
Still
there.
up there, isn't it?
It's
Yeah,
still
it's still
sitting up
up
there,
there.
that big
Yeah.
stone, yeah.
Yeah.
It's deteriorated in the weather, but Oscar would sharpen the axe in it, and they'd sharpen all the blades on the mower with that.
And you know, here's this, the engine's down there by Rick, and you got this, it must have been 20 feet, 40 feet total, but a 20-foot loop this wide, and it just went real slow, and then just, they
Chug,
put it
chug,
around a
chug,
big hub right here, and it ran the,
Ran the saw
Oh
blade.
yeah, yeah.
I remember cleaning out the chicken coops, and I find these old like petrified eggs.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I put them out in the sun; they would actually explode. You know, the eggs would just create
Sure.
some kind of gas inside of them.
Sure.
They would actually go, little mini bombs.
Oh, yeah.
The second year I was here, they had a bad water line from the house down to one of the Rams. And I had to dig, I think Steve Adams and myself had to dig a trench 18 inches deep, all the way down to that Ram on the south side of the island? Yeah, south side of the house. And we hand dug that thing all the way down to the Ram.
Oh, jeez.
And then they laid pipe in there and we covered it up and they had water again coming up.
So Steve worked here.
Yeah, Steve and
He was
Jim.
he was a good worker, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah, he was. I worked with him at Carlson's ranch
Yeah.
for 2 years. That guy could work.
Do you guys remember digging fence posts?
Sure,
we had to, that's
you
something
and I,
we had to do. Yeah.
Rudy come and
Yeah.
mark them where he
Yeah.
want them and give us an axe handle. That's how deep it had to be.
That's right.
And we
yeah.
got the big metal
Yeah,
Metal
thing.
bar, yeah.
And we would just dig and dig and dig.
that was the worst. That's probably the worst job.
Well, I don't know. Oscar was in charge of the cemetery, and I had to go up there and dig a grave.
Oh, that's
And when
bad.
you're a short guy, you know, the
Yeah.
dirt's
Oh,
about
yeah.
this much above your head when you're done
Yeah.
with it. And that stuff was hard up there.
That scoop back there,
Yeah.
that's what he used to bury a cow out in that field.
Mhm.
Hooked it to the tractor. The one that's sitting right over there with the two handles.
They used
Oh,
that
okay.
at the,
And I had, that trench was, I bet that trench was 75 feet long by the time I got it deep enough to bury a cow. A cow that was halfway through calving, and the calf's head was out. Both of them were dead. We dragged it from the back pasture, right out in that field, but it took at least 2 hours with me on the end of that scoop, because he wouldn't cut the legs off. And he wanted it deep enough the coyotes couldn't get to it. And so to get deeper, we had to get longer.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
And
That's how that
probably
works.
weighed, at that time, $1.50.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I'd hit a rock, I'd go flying.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then he would get mad at me because somehow I was supposed to see that
Uh-huh.
rock in the dirt, which turned to mud because it was one of those rainy days.
Sure.
And so I had mud up to my collar because I was in a ditch that was deep enough that I couldn't see out.
Mm-hmm.
2 hours.
So
Yeah.
there were coyotes then. Were there coyotes out here in the early 60s? I
No.
don't think so.
No.
So I don't
not
remember.
in
I
the
wonder
early
who brought 'em
60s, but
over.
late 60s.
They probably swam over. You
I've
know,
seen deer
swam over
swimming
from-
over, but I didn't know the coyotes would. From McNeil?
Probably. Go across Pitt Island.
There's a rumor, and I was living on Ora Bay at this time around 69, that two hippies brought him out on chains. And they released him out here. And my stepdad told me that. I don't know.
That sounds pretty good.
Lowell Johnson.
Yeah.
Now everybody on the islands are hippie.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, the first year I worked here, we reshingled the house, or the roof.
Yeah. My brother and I reshingled this 1985 or something when we were in business.
I remember raccoons. So Rudy, one of them up by the incubator, they were shooting raccoons to keep them out of the incubator house or something.
Oh, yeah.
We used to put that. We had that house where they
Well,
came
we
in
had
the mail.
the free range chickens up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's where they'd go from the incubator to chicks. Then we'd let them go out. They'd run around, but they had a house in the middle for nighttime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they were worried about there.
Yeah.
That's when they had
raccoons came-
pee-wee eggs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a raccoon getting in the chicken coop. And of course, you know, Rudy had a 10 gauge goose gun, single action, break action. He had that in a 30-30 lever action. You remember that? Remember that gun? Anyway, I had to try to kill a raccoon that was getting in. There were bloody raccoon prints of getting in the chicken coop.
Yeah.
And I was too close, and it probably had a full choke, and I missed it, ended up on the ground.
Huh.
And then the sad part about it is, I was so upset about it that later the raccoons used to eat the grain that we would put in the box before we would milk.
Sure.
And I saw a raccoon, I don't know if it was the guilty one, but I took a rock, and as it turned and got out of the barn, it turned and looked at me. I threw a rock, hit it right in the forehead, and killed it.
Oh.
And then the two little baby raccoons came out.
Oh, then you feel like a
And then I
smurf.
felt like the scumbag of the earth, you know, because that was Mama Raccoon, you know, and I was thinking, after that I thought, oh man, everything's got to eat, I guess, but
She was just trying to feed her family.
I know, I was like,
You were some long-haired hippie. You had hair down here.
I had to go smoke some pot or something. I was so destroyed by that. That really bothered me as a kid, you know. I
So
didn't
you-
have anybody to talk to.
You missed it
about
with the shotgun, but you got it with the rock.
I got it with the rock, but you know, I'm an avid pheasant hunter now, but I don't shoot hens with chicks.
Yeah.
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 But it was all that's coming of age stuff, you know. I mean, when you're a kid
Sure.
at that age, all those experiences in your life, you never have had that, you know. Especially if you live in town,
Right.
You don't have those. not in the 70s. I mean, people were kind of leaving the farm life.
Yep.
So
exactly.
to have a farm experience like that is kind of unusual in this part of the.
Oh, and I think Rudy and Oscar are what made it unusual. They weren't your typical
No.
bachelors.
Well, Oscar had died just
Yeah.
before I came.
Okay.
Oscar wasn't.
No, he had just died, and so it was just Rudy. That's why I worked by myself. It was
Oh.
just me and Rudy, and
Lita was here.
Lita was here. But
Did Al,
but
was
then-
Al still around?
Al, yeah, Al came out with Elma Ruth, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, they didn't live here. And
Oh, that
so-
was fun, him coming out, though.
Well, he was a talker.
Oh, he just yacked Rudy's
Yeah.
ear off.
But Rudy must have been a different man when he was by himself. Lois Scholes was the best thing that ever happened to Rudy Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Because when she would come out, I got invited over for dinners with them. I felt like a chaperone. Felt kind of funny.
You probably were.
What,
But
were they
she-
trying to kiss and stuff?
I sure hope so. I mean, the man needed a kiss now and then, you
Yeah.
think maybe? But she would make a dinner, and she was so sweet and kind to both of us, and she doted on him, which he needed that, soften him up a little bit. Because I remember him like you, man. He definitely had some other words besides just
Oh, yeah.
euphemisms. We got into some real conversations about, but it was different because he was alone and I lived
Yeah,
here.
it was different.
It was different. And so I got to see him 24 hours.
Yeah.
In fact, after milking the cows, eating and taking a shower, I remember one time he said, "Did you finish your lessons? My homework?"
Yep.
And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You want to play poker?" And I told the story. I told Rit the story. It was very heartwarming for me because I had a dysfunctional family. My parents are both passed away now, but there was a real rough spot when my dad came back from Vietnam. Our family, half of them were in Minnesota. People separated, so I didn't really have anything. Rudy was probably the only real family I had at the time.
In fact, you know what you called him? I remember vividly. You'd come out here after school, and you'd yell, "Hey, Grandma and Grandpa, I'm home!"
Yeah, so
And they kind of smile. They were always glad to see you.
So one day, because I had to do all the mowing, the raking, and the baling, and stacking, and loading the barn, Rudy just drove the tractor because we had to. In order for me to put the forks in the bales, that was all he did. But one day after, and the child, you can't really work kids today like
Right.
he expected us to work.
Right.
Legally, you cannot have a kid put in a 12-hour day just because you got to put up hay. But that's the way it was.
Yeah.
And so one day I was greasing the mower right up here, and I was hot. I had my shirt off, I had cutoffs and boots, and my hair in a ponytail. He was Oshkosh farmer, and I was rock and roll hippie kid. And he came up in the Chevy, brown paper sack, and he was walking up to me, and he looked at me and he said, I probably was maybe 16 at that time. "You want a beer?" And I looked at him like, "Are you serious?" And he pulled a 6-pack of Heidelberg he had just picked up from Lyle's.
Oh, good
and
beer.
It was
That was good.
still sweating because it was hot. And he took those with those big hands, and he handed me a Heidelberg beer. And I looked at him and guzzled that first beer, and it was running down my face. And he stood there smiling at me, and I burped, and I handed it back to him. He goes, "You want another one?" But then I didn't guzzle that one. And I looked at him and he smiled. That was the most affection that I saw him show, except for when he sold me the 10 acres back there. But I knew then. Of course, I told the story on the other interview. That was after he had an episode where he was airlifted out of here, and only Mike Cammon and his dad and Jane knew, I think. But he almost died. He had surgery, and he got back on the tractor too soon.
Okay.
And so I went in the house one evening at the end of the day, and I smelled vomit. And I went in the living room, and he was on the Davenport, choking on his vomit. And he had soiled his pants, and they were full of blood. And I turned him on his side, and he was coughing, and he was alive. But I ran in. This is when they had the new phones, right? So I called Mike Cameron. And, his dad and mom came over in the Chevy wagon. We loaded him in the wagon, took him down to the field by Bob Bear's, the post office down there, that field across the street.
Mm-hmm.
It was dark. I took Alita's car, and we parked him with our headlights and made an X, and a helicopter from Fort Lewis came out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the guys came out, it looked like a scene out of MASH or, Vietnam. Guys with army uniforms, white band, Red Cross, helmets, with a stretcher. They ran up to the car. We loaded Rudy up. They took him, put him in the helicopter, no door on it. It was an open door, and they flew off in the night. And for the next 10 days, I thought he had died. Because nobody came and told me nothing. I was here by myself. Alita, she wasn't here. She must have been in a nursing home for a little while because she wasn't here. I was all by myself. And 10 days later, all of a sudden, the Camerons drove up and he got out. He lived.
Mm-hmm.
And when he walked past me on the porch, all he did was go like this. Boy. And he walked in the house, and I'm like, "You got to be kidding me! I thought you died." And of course, I didn't have my dad or anybody to talk to. I was all by myself. I thought he died. No, this was my life. I just inherited this farm, and I had to work it until I died. But after that, our relationship changed. He started letting me drive the Chevy, and it was.
Probably had to.
No, not really. He could still do everything, but I got to drive the trucks. That's the first truck I ever drove that you had to have the little starter button on the floor. You turn the key on, and then you push the little starter button.
Yeah.
There was no. It was on the floor. I remember that one.
Yeah.
I thought those things were derelicts. I didn't know they ran. But anyway, and then he started to let me do that, and it was a great part of my life. I look back. I came back a year later when this other fellow that was came from Vietnam. I can't remember his name. He died a year later. I left, and then a year later he died. And he gave me my start, sold me that 10 acres back there. And I'll never forget, I asked him, "Would you sell me an acre of land?" And he goes, "What do you want to live out here for?" And I said, "Well, Rudy, where else am I going to go?" And he was pretty quiet. I said, "Come on, man." He goes, "You don't have any money." I was thinking, that's because you don't pay me that much. But anyway, so then he goes, "You don't have any money." I said, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I'll work 1 full month for an acre of land, which I thought was a good deal for him. He was paying me $50 a week plus room and board. So it was $200. And he said, "Okay." And I went, "Come on, you got to shake on it." And we shook hands. And later on that year, he made the deal. But 10 acres, 200 an acre. And
Cool.
I remember that story.
yeah, that got me started.
You still own it?
No, my family put a lot of pressure on me to sell it and give all the money to my family. That's another story.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad thing the way that worked because it was really mine, but they were wanting it to be ours.
Sure.
Was it down here?
It was that 10 acres right down in the corner. I used to have to pick the tansy ragworts off of that 10 acres.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's another job we had.
That was
Picking
another
tansy.
job from-
Tansy ragwort. Yeah.
Picking
Oh
tansy.
man! And I said, "Well,
Yeah.
I didn't have no gloves, and they were covered with bees." And I'm going, "You got to be kidding me! I can see tansy ragworts as far as I can see."
You have to burn it.
Yeah. What are
Yeah.
gloves?
Yeah.
You didn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
gloves around here.
I got so mad at those bees, I just started smashing them. At first, I was afraid of them, but after a while, I wasn't afraid anymore.
Yeah.
I pulled tansy ragworts, and I'd be glad when that job was done. Of course, you have to clear the whole pasture,
Sure.
but that was just another job.
Yeah, you had to do it a certain time of year before the stuff went to seed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but they had pretty good root system on them.
Oh, yeah.
They would kill the cows though.
That's
Yeah.
what he said. They were bad for
The cows that eat it.
They're toxic.
Yeah.
It get,
And
yeah.
bad milk.
Yeah. But anyway, it was. I look back now, and everything was easy after that.
Mm-hmm.
Every job I had was easy after that.
Oh yeah.
Every employer I worked
Yeah.
for was easy after that.
Probably never complain about anything
Never
the rest of your
complained.
life.
No.
Yeah.
Well, the responsibilities they gave us, you know, of driving the tractor, driving the car, driving the truck. I remember one day he said, I need some wood cut. Do you know how to cut wood? I said, yeah, I've watched my dad and I help him. We get wood on the weekends. Well, there's a little McCullough out there. Go grab it
I
and
remember
take
this.
the trailer down and cut me some wood. And, you know, never showed me how to run it. I just went down there and started cutting. And I talked to my dad about that. Can you show me a few things, you know? And then after that, I felt comfortable with it. But,
Sure.
you know, a 14, 15-year-old kid today, you don't
Sure.
just go,
Oh.
you know, pick
No.
up a chainsaw and
No,
cut.
we would split a lot of wood
Oh, yeah.
in the early fall.
I hated the madrone.
Oh, yeah. They'd let it dry too
They'd
long.
let it dry too long, and you'd have to get the wedges out.
In the fall,
And
I'd
you
come
pound and
out
pound.
with that I'm sorry,
That's okay.
that football. I'd come out on the weekends. I'd work Saturdays out here,
Oh yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
what I do is wood.
Mhm.
I come out and split wood all day long.
Yep.
You know, the funny thing is, I had a architectural concrete company where we tried to incorporate some type of a summer job where they could get credit through the school system, South Kitsap school system. You know what they told me? A kid cannot operate a worm drive, skill saw, or any of those tools till he's 18.
I deal with that with my business.
Yeah, and I said to myself, but you let them drive around in a 2-ton car, and they can't run a worm drive? And they said, that's the law. And so I thought back to the years that I worked on this farm, all the things that I did,
Yeah.
14 to 18, and no wonder the kids don't know how to work. They don't let them work.
Well, that's how it was back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All farms were that way.
Yeah, but somehow I guess too many kids died in doing farm jobs or something. They were supposed to wear bicycle helmets while they were mowing fields or something.
Well,
But
yeah, way back in the day, though, McNeil Island was self-sustaining.
Yeah.
It was.
When the state had it, and the prisoners worked, they had their own.
When it was federal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when it was
Yeah.
federal. Yeah, and so they had their own dairy farm and cattle and on
They had a lumber mill there.
That-
Yeah,
Dad-
sawmill.
My dad ran the sawmill.
Yeah, yeah,
That's right.
Well, he set it up on the island.
Yeah.
But
and the ACLU gets in there now. They got his computers and television and don't have to work at all.
yeah,
I went to school over there in the 6th grade. I remember the guy that drove the bus, was a black guy named Sidney. And he was like 75 years old. He actually murdered his wife when he was very young.
Mhm.
Very, very regretful of the whole thing. And he just fell in love with the kids. I mean, we were like his family. The year I was there was the year he got out of prison.
interesting.
And he didn't want to leave. He's been in there for 40 plus years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't know anything different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, some of the rides Rudy gave me to the ferry, pretty exciting, because he would wait. I always thought we were way too late. But you know how that road is.
Oh, yeah.
And that sharp left turn, where Tom White's place.
Yeah.
Sure,
Straight
yeah.
now. But that's kind of like a truck. What do they call those truck thing when the truck loses its brakes and they can go straight and
Oh,
stop?
drifting.
Yeah, well, there was no extra road there then.
He used to drift that corner
Oh,
in the
remember-
57.
No, but
Remember my
But he
truck?
drove too fast.
I took it off the road sideways.
he did. Well, see, I knew
Yeah.
there was something wrong there because we were going, I think, a little bit. It was downhill to the left, but we never missed a ferry. And so I never had it over on him. I could never say, if you'd leave 5 minutes earlier, you wouldn't have to drive like an
Yeah.
idiot. But anyway, there were some interesting trips down to the ferry, but it was,
You were
we
right.
almost got there.
That first year I was here working with you, we walked it, across
Yeah,
Davy's place. But the second year you had a car.
I bought it from Andy Anderson.
Oh, okay.
That was an
yeah.
old
48 Dodge.
48 Dodge pickup, and it didn't even have a muffler on it. the exhaust went right up so it couldn't
Yeah.
even go in town.
You picked me up at I'd walk up Sandburg and you'd pick me up in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then that one night
But I
going
took
home-
it sideways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, that we were going to the Paul Revere and the Raiders concert
Oh, is that the night
in
in
town.
Tacoma?
Was it in
It's-
Tacoma, the block party?
We were going to the Commonwealth Hall, I think, or something it was called.
Yeah, or the Armory or somewhere.
Because they had a
Yeah.
block party with Paul Revere and the Raiders. They were fantastic.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We
Well,
were
I don't
going
know
to-
if it was Block.
Well,
This was
down in
before
Tacoma.
you.
Yeah, it was before me, but I mean, I love music ever since
Yeah.
I was 9 years old.
That's
But
probably
we
65
we went
or
off. We went off sideways.
It
Yeah.
must have been the original Paul Revere's and the Raiders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Mark Lindsay,
Oh yeah, no, he was.
Fang.
Yeah, they had a bunch of Hollywood guys. Paul Revere's the only guy left.
Yeah, that would get one of those guys is our
He
guitar
passed away
player.
last year.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the guy he's in our band now.
Yeah.
Yeah, one
Oh,
one
wow.
of those guys you saw. But
Was
we
he the
saw
old
the
guy with
first
the
guys.
Burgundy
These
Express?
guys are like studio musicians.
Yeah.
Is that the guy you're talking about, the guitar player?
Yeah,
No, he
Washington
was
State
in
bands.
Paul Revere and the Raiders. for
But
45
wasn't he
years.
Burgundy Express before that?
No, just
am I
Sonics
thinking
and
Okay.
Paul Revere. But we do have a guy from the Burgundy Express, a drummer, is in our
Oh,
band.
okay.
Well, yeah, we saw the original Raiders. We saw
Yeah.
Rick Levin and Smitty.
Yeah,
Yeah, Phil Volk,
yeah.
Mark Lindsay.
I
Yeah,
I think I want to say one other thing, and he didn't push it very much, but Rudy asked me to go to the Sunday service one time. He asked me, "Do you want to go?" Because I just stayed home. I just stayed here, and I know that he used to teach Sunday school,
He did.
but I know
I used to
he,
go to service with Rudy.
he was a God-fearing man.
Yeah.
He had his rough corners, but I remember one time he had his blue suit on, and he invited me to the service. Wasn't Drummond the pastor at that time, Wesley?
Oh, Westrum,
Wasn't he the pastor at that time?
occasionally.
Okay, he was an itinerary.
Occasionally.
Okay, but anyway, so he invited me, so I went. But I thought, I wonder what he thought of me, because we never had these long, deep conversations, but he always did a little thing here and there. I look back now,
Where was the service at? Was it at the old?
it was down here.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Down on
when they-
It
Eccleston
wasn't.
Junction.
It wasn't Wide Awake Hollow. I used to go to
At
Wide
the
Awake.
old schoolhouse.
I used to go there,
Yeah.
and
No.
remember Rudy?
Yeah,
He would.
they'd get a sermon on a sheet,
Yeah.
and he would read the sermon during Sunday.
He'd be sitting in the back,
Yeah.
he'd be sleeping because that's what farmers did when they weren't working. They'd take naps.
Yeah, but
He would get up. I remember him reading a Bible verse.
Yep.
He'd read his Bible verse and he'd go sit back down, and that was like 1965, 66.
because we talked about his harder edges a little bit, like he was hard driving, hard pushing guy, but I think he deserves at least the credit for being that side of a man too. He was a God-fearing man that had his principles. But I think that back then, that was when guys didn't tell their kids, "I love you, son." It was more of a,
Well, these are Finnish guys.
yeah, these are tough guys. and
Yeah,
so
I mean,
they had
ours-
the tough guy image, but there was a softer side to him too.
Sure.
Oh, you saw that towards the end.
Toward the end, especially with Lois Scholes.
Wait,
Well,
you see that little smirk when Lowell should show up? He didn't smile much.
My battery's dying. I have to stop.
Okay.
how do we do?
Take a break. You're doing great.
I think
Good start.
plenty.
Good start.
Yeah.